need for legal aid is great. Across the country, millions of people are unable to find shelter. They're homeless or on the verge of homeless, from foreclosures, the foreclosure crisis facing the nation. They're single moms in need of child support. If they can't make ends meet, are also going to be in the homeless category. Number one homeless person in the United States is a child, and for these individuals, they need help. They can't access the system. The court system is very complex. They don't have a place to turn. Across the country, some states have nothing but a legal service corporation. Here in Illinois, outside of the suburbs, there's only Prairie State and Administered Justice. We cannot begin to meet all the needs of low-income individuals in that kind of a setting. There just is so many people that need help with basic issues, fundamental issues that we take for granted, that they cannot access the system for. And without attorneys who are willing to step up and step out of some of their comfort zone and to take on cases or help provide information that is so vital to individuals in need, serious problems result. They are homeless, and there are not enough shelters to be able to hold them all. We can prevent that. We can provide child support. We can provide housing. We can provide shelter. We can do all this through the law and help avoid major problems also. And so the role that the attorney plays in being able to meet that specific human need and that significant need in a system that's governed by laws and where laws pervade all that we do, individuals need access to legal information. They need access to legal advice. They need access to legal representation. And that's something that a lawyer can uniquely provide. And they can do that through an organization like Administered Justice. If Administered Justice did not exist, in the first few years of our history, we've seen 12,000 people. There would be 12,000 people who would literally have no place else to go for help. What would that mean in terms of not being able to go anyplace else for help? That would mean that some parents are without their children because we were able to restore the family. That would not have happened. And so there are moms who would not have their children with them, and there would be families that would be ripped apart. There would be older individuals who have been reunited with families, who have been able to have their children care for them through a guardianship that would not and could not have happened if we were not here. And so there would be older people living in retirement homes, never reunited with family, never having the ability to live with a family, and instead living in a very sterile area with a lot of other people and being treated as just some old person waiting to die. There would be children who would not be able to be adopted. There would be children who would not be able to receive child support. There would be children who would not be able to have someone be their guardian to take care of them. Those individuals would be in foster care or in a system someplace, and they would not have homes and loving families to be able to take care of them. Those are very real consequences if we did not exist. Individuals that we have helped, that's what we've helped them accomplish. And without that, that's where they would be. And there would be no family stability, there would be no unions, there would be marriages that we've been able to help bring together that would be falling apart and then tearing whole families apart. There would be individuals who have been victims of fraud and abuse that would continue that way and would likely, honestly, be dead today if not for the intervention of an organization like Administered Justice. So the consequences would honestly be fairly dire for a significant percentage of that 12,000 people that we've been able to help.
You can make a difference. You can intervene in all of those issues, whatever legal aid or starting a legal aid, wherever you are. I guarantee you the need is great. I guarantee you that you would be most welcome in wherever community you are because there's so little resources available. We've been blessed now, honestly, since that thing. We've served more than 20,000 clients since then, more than 5,000 this year so far alone. But how did that start? How did we ever even get started? Because everybody starts someplace, right? You've got to start with the first step. How do you make that even that first step? That's always the great challenge. My story, what I'm doing here, is God called me out of a private practice. I had a very successful private practice, senior partner, just a wonderful position, wonderful career. Loved it, but God called me to leave that. It was not an easy call. I'd love to give you the full story of just all of the things that God had to do to really shake up my world and persuade me to leave that practice and to go and serve the poor. But that was God's call upon my life. So eventually I listened to that call, and eventually I made that step. Now that step is a scary step, and some of you are maybe sitting there and it's just a scary step to have that first meeting with the client. Do I really know enough to even be able to help them? That first step, do I have enough experience to really step out into this area on my own? What's going to happen? Can I honestly do this? All those questions raced through my mind too. And I certainly thought that I was crazy when I went to my partners and I told them, hey, God's calling me to leave everything and go serve the poor. And they just thought that was crazy. And they were not happy, and there was a lot of different conflict, but I left. I shut down my private practice, the law office, went into administer justice full-time. That was 2003. And I'm sitting there, actually I'm standing there just like this, in a little 8x10 office. That's our first office. Many of you may start in something just like that, or maybe you'll start a little bit bigger, but that's about as small as you can get for a start. So start somewhere is what I would say. A little 8x10 office, I'm all alone, I'm standing there, and at this particular point in time, I cannot for the life of me figure out how to print an envelope. See, I had lots of people who did that. I didn't know how in the world to print an envelope. And I was mad. I was mad at God because I'd lost my identity. I'm no longer a senior partner, now I'm a poverty lawyer. Well, that's like top to bottom. I'm mad because I've got no money. There's no money in the Mr. Justice's bank account, and I knew I'd live under the poverty line for many years, which is true. And I'm mad about that. I'm mad that I can't figure this out. I'm mad that God must have been wrong. This just isn't fair. Why would God call anyone to serve him like that? And so I literally cried out those words, what am I doing here? And I will tell you I'm not crazy, but honestly I heard a voice respond, my will, for whatever you do for the least of these, yet do unto me. And that transformed my life. And God can transform your life. He may not reach out with that kind of a direct call. I was very proud, stubborn, all kinds of things, and God needed to give a direct call to get my attention. But he's calling each of us to truly get involved and serve the least of these and make a difference. And you do, each day, one person at a time. The difference is profound that we can make if we'll listen and follow his call. Today, this is our staff. One staff lady is gone. So since 2003, God has just blessed each person who stepped out by faith to follow God's leading. So we have 11 staff now. We have a main office, and then we have several office locations, multiple office locations, and we live out our calling to serve the poor and the least of these. We have 650 volunteers who get engaged in justice, and they're engaged regularly. Those are ones for just the last year that have been involved. So they're non-lawyers and lawyers. We have 450 non-lawyers, a little less than that, 220 lawyers who just get engaged every day wanting to make a difference in the lives of people who are broken and hurting. And it's truly that difference that distinguishes, in many ways, what we do versus what a legal services corporation might do. Because we're looking to transform people and change them for eternity, as well as the here and now. And that's why we talk about gospel justice. Now, some of you, and the rest of you, I'll make sure that you get have a little chapter. God laid on my heart, and as I was praying with John Robb over the last couple of years, that there just needed to be a good book out there that really described the stories, that really described the ability to transform lives, to lay out for you how lawyers' lives, how your life will be different if you step out in faith. You will be changed. And there are wonderful stories in this chapter I've given you of lawyers, lawyer after lawyer after lawyer, whose life is changed in their private practice. Now, these guys, none of them in this book have left their jobs. God called me to do that. But all of them are serving in and through justice ministry for the poor. And it does change their lives, and it will change yours. And so this book hopefully will come out in the next year. And I just hope it'll be a tool to encourage churches, because we also really encourage the church as the bride of Christ to step up and for them to get engaged, to be a place where lawyers can meet with clients and that they can help people, so many people in the community, and a great way for the church to get engaged with their community as they want to see the community transform. And we can do that through justice. And so we started also a new organization, and John's aware of this. John was part of our discussions, called Gospel Justice Initiative that John and I began, that's just getting launched to try to help equip, encourage, excite people all around the country to get engaged more and to see God's word go forth and to really just see the power of the Spirit transform people. And so its sole focus will be that, to excite and equip God's people to use their gifts in ministry of justice to the poor. So I want to show you just a little bit about everybody we're here for, all the individuals who are broken and who need help.
I just want to know if there's anything I can do.
I just want to show these papers to somebody who knows what they mean.
I just want to know if I'm going to lose my house.
I just want them to pay me what they owe me.
I just want to protect my family.
I just want to see my kids.
I just want someone to listen.
I just want to be able to sleep at night.
I just want Mommy to stop crying. I just want someone to care.
Justice, synonymous with fairness, equality, truth. It's a founding principle on which our country was formed. It is the conclusion, the finale, to the most often repeated sentence in our nation's history.
With liberty and justice for all.
But is that really the case?
After my husband walked out on me and the kids, I was devastated. He had always been the family provider and didn't even want me to work. But even though we had a child support agreement as part of the divorce, he wasn't following it. I found a job, but it didn't include medical care or even really come close to covering the monthly bills. I knew that when I was barely putting food on the table, I wasn't going to be able to pay an attorney. I figured I was just going to have to go without child support. I had a failed marriage. Now I felt like I was failing to protect my kids. I felt helpless.
After my husband passed away, I was shocked to learn that he hadn't been filing our income tax forms for the last few years. I don't know why he did it, but he did, and as his surviving spouse, the government was holding me liable for the unpaid debt. Suddenly, I was receiving letters demanding payment that was for more than I made in a year. I tried to call the IRS and explain that I couldn't pay this, but that they were using all sorts of legal and financial terms I didn't really understand, and they just told me to pay it. I sure couldn't afford an attorney on my fixed income, but without one, I just didn't know how to get out of this situation. I felt so alone.
Last year at this time, my life was pretty good. Steady job, okay pay, decent home. Then the company I worked for just went belly up. No warning, just closed the doors. We didn't have a lot saved up, but what we did have was gone in a flash. Just paying the bills. I fell for one of those companies that said they could consolidate my debt. But all they did was take what little money we had left and did nothing. Before long, we were on the brink of foreclosure. I didn't know who to take my problems to, who to trust to help me. I let my family down. I was embarrassed. I felt ashamed.
It has been calculated that 1 out of 3 people in this area will experience poverty. 1 out of 3. Think about that. When you're sitting in church, or at the movie theater, or a ball game, the person to your left or your right may be suffering from a season of poverty. The next time you're standing in line at the grocery store,